After a mysterious apocalypse leaves the world with few survivors, two families forced to share a home form an uneasy alliance in an attempt to keep the outside evil at bay, only to learn that the true horror may come from within. Ladies and gentlemen, it comes at night. What's happening? Welcome to the Worst of the Worst podcast. It's Mr. Doug Carrion from Los Angeles. How are you? Welcome to the podcast where we poke fun at, dissect, unwrap, laugh, and scratch our heads at some of the best movies ever made in cinematic history. This is true. Now, we have so much to unpack with this film. I can't wait to get into it, but I'm going to say one thing. You ever watch a movie and you realize like it's about, you're watching what's on the top, but there might be this like subtext that's happening underneath, and you're like, is this really about this or is it about that? I have one of these that I'm not going to tell you till the end, ladies and gentlemen, and it could possibly blow your mind. For the sophisticated, it will blow your mind, my take on this one. But we're going to jump into my co-host from the great state of New Jersey, the lady that puts the R in ratchet. Let's hear it for Miss Courtney Blue. Courtney, how are you? What's going on? And did you see this freaking movie? What's happening? I don't hear you, Courtney. Are you there?
All right, am I here? Am I back?
Yeah, you're there.
Okay.
I think I got so excited I clipped your mic.
You totally did. No, it's so crazy because I was so fucking prepared, and then all of a sudden my mic goes out. Anyways, okay. Yeah. So as I was gonna say, if you hadn't done the movie voice just now and explained the movie again, I still would have been confused as to what the fuck it was about. I was pretty much lost during this whole travesty. So
okay,
I have
so
lots
that's a
of
good
words for you.
Okay, good. Well, then there you go. All right. So from also the great state of New York this time, Movie Mayhem podcast host coming out for the first time, Savage Media Radio and the Worst of the Worst podcast. Let's hear it for Mr. Matt. Matt, how are you? What's going on? Great to have you on the show. And
thank you
did you see the film? What's happening?
I did just see that film, and I feel like I'm like right in between you guys. On one hand, I'm like, okay, this film is definitely trying to say something to us, and definitely like there's a lot of subtext here that the guy's going for. But on the other hand, I have no idea what that is. So I think I'm right between you guys as far as how this film played out. So it'll be fun. I'm excited to break this one down.
Okay, cool. Well, I do want to say that one of the ghouliest friends of mine, Candace from San Antonio, texted me, or she texted me and she was like, ooh, I really like this movie. So Candace, way out there in San Antonio, how are you? The ghouliest of the ghoulie girls. What's happening? This one is for you. So let's see if I do it proper. Okay, I'm going to take a drink of water and we're going to jump into this thing. Are we ready, ladies and gentlemen? And away, as the great Chuck Niles would say, away we go. So here we go. So the story opens up, and the whole entire story basically, for the most of it, it happens around this cabin that's in the woods. And on the exterior shots, it's like regular woods, like you'd think, trees and all that. On the interior, everything's dark, very, very dark and creaky. So think like an old cabin maybe made in the late 1800s, turn of the century. So it's an old cabin, maybe even 2-level cabin, okay? So story opens up, and we see this man that seems to be kind of like huffing and puffing as if he's having an asthmatic attack, and we're trying to figure out what's going on, and it's Grandpa Bud, or my dad Bud, but it's Bud who basically he has acquired some kind of disease, and there are other people in the room with him, and they're wearing gas masks and stuff like that. So you're like, holy shit, the apocalypse is here. What's wrong with Grandpa Bud?
By the way,
Grandpa's
Doug, saddest movie like intro I've seen in a very long time. I was like already heartbroken. I was like, I'm already fucking done. Flip the table on this shit. But,
Okay,
known really well.
Okay, so I think the only way they could have made it any sadder is if like the opening segment they're like shooting horses or something, just like putting animals down. We're gonna just start turning people off right out of the gate.
Right.
So Bud is definitely in bad shape. One of the things that I noticed, and it's my own weird worst of the worst side note, is that this film doesn't know whether it's day or night, and it keeps snapping back and forth between day or night faster than a hooker takes off her skirt. You know, I mean, it's like, God damn, how fast can we switch? Is it night? Nope, it's day. Is it day?
It's funny.
Nope, it's night.
When you were talking about like what like how the cabin's always dreary and always kind of dark, what I was thinking is that no matter if it's day or if it's night, the cabin looks the same. It's always like 100% is like they're using candle lights and stuff, and it could be like 2 p.m. They never, they jump back and forth, they have no idea what time it is at any given time.
Right,
It's weird for a movie that's called It Comes at Night.
Right.
And
you never know when fucking night is.
You would never actually know when night is. It's like the opposite of like Paranormal Activity, where like one of those movies where it's like you just kind of try not to fall asleep during the day, and then when the nighttime scenes happen, you're like, oh shit, let's do this. No, this is the opposite. This is like, oh man, it's like, oh man, when is the nighttime coming? Is it already here? Who is coming? Nobody ever comes. It's the exact opposite. That's what I mean with like
lie, basically.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's pretty wonky. It's pretty wonky. So basically, Grandpa Bud's not going to make it. The characters right now are Paul, who's the dad, Travis, who's the son, and Sarah, who's the mom. Okay, Travis is, I don't know, about high school age, maybe 17, something like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. So basically they put, Paul, who's kind of like the executioner on this particular situation, has to do the kind of mercy kill and puts the pillow over. It's now morning, and they wheel Grandpa Bud outside. They put a pillow over him. Kaboom. Paul has to kill him. Grandpa Bud dies. Then they throw Grandpa Bud into this shallow grave. Right. And then they put some gasoline on him, and they have to light Grandpa Bud on fire. So you can tell, just a kill isn't going to work, and just burying somebody isn't going to work. It's going to definitely be like 2 times they're going to have to put people
double
under.
Tap.
Right.
Yeah.
It's the double tap. It's the double tap. So
quick interjection.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Last time we watched Black Caesar, right? And we saw a kid that
classic.
was obviously mixed, right? We
Mhm.
saw a
Right.
kid that was obviously mixed that turned into this completely all black guy, right? So in this movie, we have a mother and a father who are 2 different races, and the kid looks completely black. Where do you find
Kid's all
these
black.
movies?
I'm thinking stepdaddy. I'm thinking stepfather. Came in
I
at a
don't
young,
think so, because he
the
says
kids at a young age.
dad. He says
Yeah,
daddy.
but if you, I think at some point before the apocalypse happened, there was a big moment where the son accepted him as his father, and
Wow, we're getting deep. We're getting deep.
That is
You kinda have to
very
make this up.
interesting, Matt. You're filling in the blanks with
There you go.
all new crayons. I really
Backstory.
appreciate it.
That's what
and
this
I'm
movie
barely
needed.
fitting in the line.
I got it. That's pretty good, though. I like where you're going. See, no, I like where you're going.
See, I was gonna get on you, Doug, but that saved you. He definitely saved you
Maybe-
just now.
Or the kids just got weak genes. Or
Possibly.
Paul just has really weak genes, and
I'm
none of his
Probably.
traits get through.
There you go. Yeah, skip the generation, something like that.
Yeah.
Skip the generation.
The
Something-
grandson's
Isn't that how it
white.
works?
The grandkid's
Right,
going to be
exactly. Exactly. So, Travis, who's the son, basically always has these weird dreams, and in one of the dreams, he's again looming down this long, dark cabin hallway, and he's going toward this red door, and we don't really know what the red door is at this time. And he jumps up, and then when he jumps up, he realizes there might be somebody in the house. So he scrambles over to his mom and dad's room. His dog is barking. The dog's barking at the door. And he's like, holy shit. He goes upstairs, gets his dad. He's like, Dad, someone's in the house. You got to come downstairs. So now everybody, Paul, Travis, and Sarah are all masked up. They're wearing their gas masks, and they go downstairs to this second room. So inside the house, and then there's almost like this exterior room that leads through the red door that leads to this exterior door. And they can hear that somebody's back there, and the door swings open, and we meet Will, and Will basically kind of like comes in, and Paul kind of has him at gunpoint, and he's like, who the f- are you? Why are you breaking into this house? Are you the only one here? Are you sick? And so we're starting to see that this plot's unfolding, that there's like the others that are sick, and this family is kind of hunkered down out there in the woods. So Will doesn't really say too much. He's just kind of a little bit panicked because he's at gunpoint and Paul's coming in pretty hot. Paul flips his gun over, smacks him in the butt of the head, knocks him out. Sarah and Travis are kind of watching the unconscious man. Again, snap, all of a sudden it's morning. Here we go.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it's morning. And basically the family has taken Will outside, and they're taping him to a tree. And the strategy is that they're going to kind of contain him outside for 24 hours, 48 hours to see if he turns into something. Kind of I don't know,
he
the
like
zombie.
checks the nails. He like checks the bruises. I'm assuming that they become vampires, and like it comes at night means they manifest. The disease like manifests itself at night into like flesh-eating monsters.
See,
at this
I
point,
took it in a different direction.
what do you think?
think that they're being taken over by some like supreme force that comes from, I don't know, some fucking disease. I don't fucking know, but all
Well,
I know
yeah.
is it seems like they're overtaken by something. I don't think they turn into like vampires or zombies. At this point, while I was confused, I was thinking it was definitely like the crazy situation where it's in the air and then they start acting all psycho. Something takes over me.
That's what I mean. Like something. I mean like something crazy. I don't mean like they grow like sharp teeth, like sharp canines. I mean like like they become like 28 days later status.
Exactly.
And what you notice that when he's walking through the hallway, you see for some reason in this cabin they have a mural of the bubonic plague, which has to be the most like on the like how like on the nose can you be?
Yeah.
Yes.
I feel like that would
Easter
just be
egg.
such poor taste. You know what I mean? Like if everyone I knew was wiped out by a mysterious disease, all right, and I had to just kill Grandpappy, right, because he got, the last thing I'd want to do is put a mural of a plague on my house.
Pay homage to the disease that took out everyone I know.
Like, what is that? The equivalent of like pouring liquor out for the dead homies? Like, I have no idea.
Right.
Like, that would piss me off so much to see every time. But
Right.
they have it.
I know that's well, I guess 1 point for whoever's doing set decoration. You know, there you go. So basically, as the morning kind of happens, Will, who's the guy that tried to break into the house, we find out that he's really not sick. He didn't turn into a zombie, anything like that. And the family now is trying to figure out, okay, well, who are you? Why'd you break into the house? What's going on? And Will goes on to explain basically that that his family is in a home about 50 miles away. He didn't mean to break into this cabin. He was just looking for supplies. And that his family had left the city. So you can see now his family, too, is also out there in the woods hunkered down. And they've run out of water, and Will has gone out looking for supplies. So basically he's saying that his truck broke down, and after the sickness, quote, end quote, had taken over the city. So we know that one of the things, I'm going to side note here, one of the things that's kind of Hitchcock-like in this story is that, and I'm going to go from the tagline at the top, after a mysterious apocalypse. Well, they kept that fucking thing so mysterious that you had to make it up. That's what it's so mysterious that it's not supported by any scientific data whatsoever. It's fucking mysterious.
Yeah. At this point, I'm thinking like Walking Dead status. Like I'm thinking zombies. I mean,
I don't know. It's again, it's in the first 1, 2, 3, 4. It's like the first 5 words. After a mysterious apocalypse. Woo! So there's a lot of mystery there. Apparently, the mysterious apocalypse took over the city, and that's why Will and his family had fled. So now, Will and Paul are kind of bartering. And they're like, well, look, if you give me some water, I'll give you some food, blah, 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 blah. And so they're trying, and so now the next scene, the family's sitting around this dinner table. It's incredibly dark in the cabin. And the family's kind of sitting there, and they're trying to figure out what to do. And they decide that they are going to help get Will's family. Okay, so they all decide that.
Would you do that? Would you do that? I feel like all of her logic was sound, more people to defend the house. They don't have to share, like they can just have all the things there. They don't have to trade for it. But would you really do that though? Like after just tying a guy to a post for like a couple days and just believing everything he says at word? If you were in that situation, would you have trusted him and brought his family in?
Courtney, where are you going with that?
No.
Right?
I'm going, hell no.
When they made that decision, I was like, what in fucking Walking Dead is going the fuck on here? Because
like you have all these rules, right?
Yes.
And like you're so strict. And then the first person that stops by, you're inviting
you bring
him in?
Right. That's practically, that's almost like sleeping with somebody on the first date. I'm just saying. I'm going to throw it out there. It's like, it's pretty much, you're just pulling your pants down and just jumping. Kaboom.
But literally,
kaboom,
you
kaboom.
don't know what diseases they have. Like,
you don't know.
You don't know. You know what I mean?
They could have gotten the sickness. I'm just saying.
Going raw, too. No gas masks, no nothing.
That's right.
They're meeting this family raw.
Right. Sometimes these things happen, but you got to make decisions. And Paul decided with the family that they were going to extend the olive branch and they were going to help Will's family. So that's where we're going. So the next day, Paul loads up the truck and he and Will are going to head out to go get the family, which is about 50 miles away. And Sarah and Travis are going to kind of hang tight, and they're estimating it's going to be 2 or 3 days, okay, for him to go there. Because remember, what Paul's plan is, too, is to kind of go there and make sure that these people aren't fucked up and then try to circle back, okay? That's his plan. So they load up the truck, they start heading out, and pretty quick, they're not even 10 miles from the house. The truck gets shot at, right? And 2 people try to ambush the truck very fast. So the one guy, Paul, Paul was in the cabin and Will was in the back kind of watching, for bad guys. And so Paul, being in the cabin after their truck crashed, he grabs his shotgun and smart, he jumps underneath the vehicle, and now he's kind of watching. So he's underneath, he's watching who's shooting at us and where's it coming from. He shoots one guy, kaboom. The second guy now, Will, has jumped out of the truck, and Will's kind of punching the other guy, boom, 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 and they're fighting. And then Paul comes up and shoots him, bam. So now both guys are dead.
Wait.
Paul.
Doug,
yes,
I love your interjecting sounds. So
I love the onomatopoeia, the Batman onomatopoeia. Yeah,
dude, that's
boom,
nothing.
Boom, boom.
That's nothing. I gotta keep it real. I gotta keep it lit spicy for that young. I gotta keep it spicy for that millennial, the millennial kids.
Gotcha.
All the kids talk that way. Don't all the kids talk that way? I'm on the train. No one wants to talk to me. I wonder why.
You're so silly. Stop. I give you credit though, because you're quick with them. You're like, he hits him in the face, boom, and then he breaks his candle, clack, and I'm like, what?
It's like 1966 Batman.
Going back. God bless Adam West. God bless Adam West. Yeah, all right. So needless to say, Paul and Will are on different sides of an opinion as to whether they should have killed the other guy. Will's thinking, Paul, you shouldn't have killed this guy because we would have been able to get more information from him and so forth. And Paul's opinion is like, hell no, they just jumped us. We got to get rid of these guys right away. So they decided to kill the guy. Both guys are dead. The next scene, basically, is Paul is kind of starting to dispose of the bodies, and he tells Will, look, because you were punching that guy, you should wash your hands really well, put on your gas mask. We don't know whether these guys have the sickness. Boom, we're moving to the next. A few days later now, Travis and the dog watch Paul as he pulls up with Will and his family. So it's a couple days later, and now we've got Kim, who's the mom. We've got Andrew, who's, I'm going to guess he's going to be about a 4 or 5 year old boy. And the family, Yeah, about that. He's a little teeny tot. And they're all kind of coming. They pull up. They're doing the introductions. The
Yeah, it
next
does.
scene. Yes.
You know what I'm thinking when he pulls up. This is how paranoid I am. I don't know if it's the New Yorker in me or what. When the time cuts from him burying two people to him pulling up with this family, in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, so that whole family's sick. They've infected Paul. Paul's in on it now, and he's bringing him in, and it's gonna become a horror movie where Paul's turning on Travis,
That's
and
what I thought too.
right away, I'm just like this. This is, I mean, it ended up being nothing like that, but that's what I mean about this movie. It seems like there are so many opportunities where this thing could have been more. You're thinking, oh man, what could this end up being? What is this guy's motivation? Like, what's going to happen here?
You know
And
what? It kind of makes it interesting, even though this was a very shitty movie because it was 90% silence. But other than that, I do like the whole guessing factor about it because it's
mystery,
so
sure.
cryptic that you got to make shit up. And I was like,
it
okay.
it was the third word
I'm
in the
supplanting
tagline.
the story for them. Yeah.
Exactly.
Again, they're going for Hitchcock. You've got to fill in the blanks. So your fear, Matt, is greater than the actual writer's ability to tap into your fear, which is, it's kind of cool. I think it's cool. Unfortunately, with the worst of the worst, I would say for this movie, and we're going to ride all the way down the timeline. One of the things that is a little bit disappointing and where I think they come up short is there were so many opportunities for this to really go into some dark places. And it was like a very A to B, B to C, C to D, done kind of a story.
There were so many opportunities for it to be really bad and so much fun for us to talk about, but it just decided to stay streamlined to this really basic and unenthusiastic plot that you're like, what the fuck? You just want something else to be happening, so you make it up, which I guess serves its purpose for being on Worst of the Worst. So you did good.
There you go. There you go. So it's
the movie. Because you know what it is, the movie, we're watching this movie expecting it, to have a good story and expecting it to be like, an engaging like narrative, but that's not what the director had in mind. He was telling a very personal story about himself through Travis, and you don't figure that out until the end when you've already spent the whole movie wanting something else. So maybe if he didn't frame this in a way where it's like saying like, that's the thing. I don't think I would have been scared of this movie once if nobody told me it was a horror movie.
Right.
Right.
It's only
you're making things to jump at, right?
Right. But if they tell me this is about a kid, a little sort of coming of age story for this kid. Coming of age maybe isn't the right term, but a bit of like maturity coming in for this 17-year-old, then I would be able to appreciate it from that perspective in the framework of a horror film. But instead, we were just it's just super lame and disappointing.
Right. It was definitely a half pickle. So it's a half pickle right there. It's a half flaccid pickle, man.
It's all good.
So basically, they're having the first group meeting, and Paul's kind of explaining the rules of the road and blah, 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 and the families are settling in. And the first thing I catch is Travis giving the eye to Kim and Miss Kim giving the eye to Travis. And I'm wondering, am I the only one that picked up on that?
It was
or is
Shoot your shot, Travis.
Looking for the YD? She's looking for the YD. So I'm thinking,
I'm done.
She's looking for the YD. He's under 17. There might be different laws in this state. She's looking for the YD.
It was kind of like robbing the cradle pedophile-ish to me, because she's like, how old are you, kid? And then at the same time, she's still like sizing him up too. And I'm like, this is weird.
Yeah, leaning back.
Creepy. Okay, so the next scene is what? Travis is up in the attic doing the creepy crawl, watching down, peeping Tom style on Will and Kim.
What a creep. This kid is so weird.
There you go. That's why, ladies and gentlemen, you have a jack rag up in the attic. That's the whole idea. He's got his crawl space, and every once in a while they got to toss a flamethrower in there, kill all the microorganisms, and make sure the area is clear. I've seen stories like this.
Yep.
It happens in the attic. Okay,
That's when I
moving
figured
on.
out. That's when I figured out that the movie's about Travis. When he starts
Right.
doing weird shit like that, it's like, all right, this is not a supporting character. This guy is
Right.
on. This guy is so fucking weird. I gotta pay attention to this.
I'm going to throw a couple of eggs in here too. So the next day, basically, everybody's kind of settling into the style at the cabin, and the guys are kind of doing the guy thing, chopping the wood and da-da-da-da. And the girls are purifying water and doing all that stuff, blah, 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 blah. But one of the things I realize is that, and I'm going to give you a little bit of subtext to how I'm concluding and what my hypothesis of this film is. I noticed that Travis is incredibly awkward, and he's incredibly clumsy, as I also notice Paul is incredibly clumsy, okay? And you realize that Will is a little bit more coordinated. I'm not going to go any further. I'm not going to spoil on that, but that's how I'm going to tie this thing up a little bit later. So the guys are doing the guy thing. The girls are doing the girl things. Everybody's settling in. And then we have another one of these Travis dream sequences where Travis and Kim comes in and he's thinking about her, and then all of a sudden it's just a dream, but Kim is spitting this kind of like black goo blood into his mouth, and he wakes up. It's a pretty cool little weird dream sequence. I like it.
Way
all
to
right?
kill a boner. I feel so bad.
Right.
I don't even have a dick, and I feel bad for that kid.
Yeah, poor guy.
Yeah, when she
guy.
leans over, I'm like, oh, he's about to get it. And then she
Right?
just vomits on him, and it was just like,
Yeah.
all right, maybe he's into
Yeah.
that. I don't know.
Oh, right?
Didn't
Maybe
seem
it's that
too
kind of
when he
movie.
woke
It's all
up.
good.
Right?
And
then-
so just to drive the point home, he's woken up, okay, and he goes downstairs because he's like, again, dark cabin, holding a lantern. There's practically no electricity. Creaky, creaky, creaky. You can hear people talking, because it's one of those old cabins. He sees Miss Kim sitting at the table, and she's sitting there, and they're talking about desserts and all this other stuff. And she's definitely given him the once over twice. And he's given her the once over twice because he was up in the attic 15 minutes before rubbing one out.
Giving
so that's
himself
Pretty
put the ones in
much.
the place. Yeah.
There you go. So basically, again, next day they're going through their routines. They're working. The guys are doing the guy thing. The girls are doing the girl thing. And Paul and Travis have this conversation. And Paul says basically, Travis, I want to make sure that you don't accept anybody and trust anybody except for family. Okay. And because Travis is a little bit more open heart, he's a little bit more open, like, oh, it's nice to have Will and Kim here. Maybe it breaks the monotony of being in the cabin with just the mom and the dad and himself.
That's a stupid message to give to your kid after you basically threatened their entire lives, letting these people in.
Yeah,
But
you're the one that let
Right.
him in. Travis didn't get a say in that. Yeah.
Right.
Travis is the one that called him in, for sure.
Right. So the guys are kind of all hanging out. All of a sudden, Stanley, who's the dog, starts barking. Again, remember before when we said it comes at night? Well, this is in the day. So, interesting. Scratching my head. The dog breaks away from Paul, goes firing through the woods. It's running through the woods. It's barking. Travis makes chase. He's chasing. Now Paul and Will have guns, and they're chasing Travis, who's chasing the dog. Running through the woods. All of a sudden, the dog stops. Travis can't see the dog, and then the dog stops barking. Okay? Will and Paul show up. Will and Paul are like, maybe he sees something back there. Should we go investigate? And Paul's like, no.
A twig like a dork.
Right. He's like, no, let's go back to the cabin. So they decide that they're going to go back to the cabin. And the idea is that the dog kind of knows the woods and can find his way back. Okay. That's basically
at this point, I already know horror movie trope. That dog's dead.
Okay. There you go. You gotta wait for it. You gotta wait for it. I know.
He was my favorite part of this
what
movie.
I knew when the dog saw Paul come back. I was like, oh, there's a dog in this movie. Oh, that dog's dead. Yeah, I knew right away. Oh,
it could have been the hero. It could have been the hero. It could have been like Cujo or something.
I wish, because I love dogs and I hate to see them dying.
Bound.
Isn't it funny though? Isn't it funny how in a horror movie you can kind of assume the dog's gonna die, but then in another genre, like an action movie, like in John Wick, when the dog dies, murder, and then it just burns like a death spree, and it's like, oh my god, they broke the one rule of film: a dog died. But in the horror film, it's like, oh, get that guy out of there. It's only a matter of time.
That's very interesting.
So people can start dying. Yeah.
Hey man, if Tom Hanks can, do a buddy film with a dog, you know it's safe. Just saying.
Yo,
What was
yeah,
that movie
yeah.
called? Turner and Hooch? I'm circling
Yeah.
back on that one, Courtney. I'm
Yes.
circling back on that one.
Let's circle
Just
back
get ready.
on that. Let's add that to the list.
To the list, to the growing list, to the growing list of films we really need to pontificate, you know?
Yes.
Okay, so it's nighttime. Travis is in his room. He's doing some sketches. His dad walks in. He's like, "Hey, man, I'm sorry we had to leave the dog out there in the woods." Blah, blah, blah. He says, "Tomorrow, first sun up, we'll go take a look and look for the dog." Boom. Next scene, basically, it's Will and Paul, and they're in Bud, who's the guy that died from the sickness and got burned, I might add, in the shallow grave off site of the property. They're in his room, and they're knocking back some whiskey, and they're talking. And we learn that Paul, again, I'm throwing the egg out there, was a history teacher, and Will came from a construction kind of mechanic type. You know, so one was a little bit more of a academic, if you will. One was a little bit more working class, if you will.
You also learn that Will's a goddamn liar. And that, you know, right away, as soon as he said just me and my dad, I was like, liar, kill him, done.
Right. That's funny.
I didn't trust that guy for a second. I mean, granted, that's not what happened at all, but I'm never sold. I've never sold on Will. Yeah, exactly. In my mind, in my head story that I'm taking, like, Will's part of that group still, that they got the two guys from before, and like he's like just buying their time for them to come in, but Paul's about to catch them, which of course doesn't happen because that's way too interesting for this movie. But
exactly.
But yeah.
So here's where we're gonna get into like the meat of the story and the part that I thought that was the most interesting. Okay, so Travis is in his room and he hears something, right? And he wakes up and he finds the boy, Andrew, the 4 or 5-year-old kind of toddler guy, sleeping under the stairs. And he finds the boy. Now, this is really interesting. He finds the boy, and the boy's under the stairs, and he's like, "What are you doing, buddy? I got to take you back to bed." Like any regular person would do, just kind of helps the kid down, puts the kid back into their room. The kid jumps back into the family bed. Scene's over. Okay, so there's that little part, right? Travis hears another noise, right? And he's walking through the house, and he's kind of like walking through the house, and it's very, very dark. And he sees the first door, which is the red door, is open.
Yikes.
Okay? And he's like, "Oh, fuck." Like, I'm giving myself goosebumps right now talking about it because it was great. And he's like, "Holy shit, the door's open." So he races back upstairs to get his dad. And he's like, "Dad, there's somebody in the house." The dad puts on the gas masks. The mom puts on the gas masks. And everybody kind of starts getting ready, and they head all downtown. They head all the way back downstairs, and they go through the door, and they see that it's the dog. Okay? And the dog is basically inside, right? And the dog is big. Yeah, the dog's wounded. Exactly. The dog's wounded. Paul and Will try to tell everybody that they need to go wait in the living room, that they're going to have to, unfortunately, put the dog down, and they'll come and tell everybody what's going on in a second. So boom, you hear the dog gets shot, which is a bummer, and then finally everybody's now in the living room, and they're trying to figure out what happened. This is where the story turns, and this is the meat of the story to me. Basically, what's happening is that Travis finds Andrew, and Andrew's sleepwalking. And so Travis explains what happened. Andrew can't remember, and Paul is saying, "Does this kid sleepwalk?" And everybody starts to get really concerned because they're realizing that maybe Andrew had opened up the door, that it wasn't somebody in the house, that it wasn't the dog that leaned against the door, that Andrew had actually opened up the door. Okay, and maybe had gone in to see the dog, okay? But then when Travis had gotten him, right, under the staircase, Travis could potentially be sick. And I thought that was a great kind of flip in that, you know, you're looking at, as the story's unfolding, you realize that Travis, even though he was trying to do a good act by helping Andrew, might have gotten sick himself.
He got
got. Right, he got too. So I thought that was pretty cool. The other thing that was really cool was that in this space, they had something my kids are real hip to, which was this double dream sequence, which I don't remember.
yeah.
Which I don't, this one I really liked, where Travis was dreaming and then he wakes up from his dream only to be in a second dream.
Yep.
I caught
Whoa.
it. He woke up in his bed and he didn't fall asleep in his bed. That's how I knew he was
That's
still
how you know.
dreaming.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm.
Another thing though, how in every horror movie, there's always that one character that does the one thing that character probably shouldn't do,
Of
right?
course.
And in this case, it was Travis when he heard something, going to check it out himself. If I'm in this situation, you gotta remember, like, if nothing's going on, if it's just an average, like say like tomorrow, right? Literally tomorrow, you hear a sound at night. Yeah, you might go to check that out, right? But if the apocalypse happened and everyone's wiped out, it says y'all in a cabin, and it's so dangerous that you can't leave anywhere without a gun, and you hear a sound in the night. Are you gonna check that out alone? Like,
exactly.
It doesn't make. It's ridiculous that this kid is doing these things, especially when every dream you have involves you walking down this hallway and getting scared by some crazy shit.
Especially how poorly he swings an axe. You should, hey man, with your chops, brother, you should not be going.
Leave him alone.
What the fuck are you gonna do with that lamp, dude? What are you gonna do with that thing?
Yeah. Also, do you not have a flashlight with a lamp? Although I will say that the lighting that they're able to create with the lamp or with the gun kind of flashlight in this movie looks so good. This movie looks really good. Like,
they did deceiving.
Yeah. Yep. So anyway, everybody goes back to their room. Everybody's kind of laying down, and then all of a sudden, Travis wakes up again, and he thinks that he hears he thinks that he hears Andrew crying, and so he goes back to his dad's room, and he's like, "Hey, Dad, something's going on with Andrew." Okay, which is the 5-year-old, and so now Paul and Sarah and Travis all kind of put on their gear, and they're going to go find out what's going on with Kim and Will and Andrew. And they're knocking on the door, and for whatever reason, Will doesn't really want to open the door, and that made me a little bit nervous.
Sus. Yep.
A little bit nervous. And needless to say, Paul's knocking on the door like, dude, I just need to see the kid to make sure everything's okay. Let me make sure you guys are okay. And there's this exchange, and all of a sudden now Paul is at gunpoint from Will, okay? And Will's holding Paul at gunpoint, and then they're trying to, Will and Kim and Andrew are going to leave the property, okay? That's their plan. And Travis has told the dad, and they're going to try to find out what's going on. So Will, pulls a gun on Paul. Paul's at gunpoint. There's a little bit of a tussle. A fight breaks out. And then Sarah shows up, and she's there with her gun, right?
Yeah.
And then Kim and Andrew, they're kind of like in the exterior of that one room where the dog had passed away. They're there too. So they're kind of on the outside. And we're seeing, I'm looking at my notes here. Hold on a second. So we've got the fight that breaks out with the two dads. Kim and Andrew are in the exterior room, and they're kind of waiting while the fight's going on. And then Sarah, yeah.
Wait, so, I'm sorry, you weren't quite there yet. But when Sarah ends up having Kim and Andrew at gunpoint in the little quarantine room, she calls out. It's like, oh, they're sick. They got to go. But how did she know at that point that they were sick? How did she put it together? I don't really know.
I think because she had seen the way Bud behaved.
Yeah, she's seen it before. That's what I was thinking.
She'd seen it before.
There weren't like physical signs. It was more like behavioral that she noticed.
I think that's if you've gone through that, you could kind of tell if somebody's like not acting right, not sounding right, just by little movements, mannerisms. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Right.
Fair enough.
Also, if there's only a few people in the house, okay, and there's a kid sick, and I don't care whether he has, the mysterious apocalypse zombie flu, or he
Yeah,
has
this
the
kid has the
flu.
cold. He's
Everybody
dying. Yeah.
knows. Yeah,
Right.
everybody
Yeah.
knows pretty quick.
That's fair. That's fair.
Then the mom just picks up and she's just like, well, something's going on. The other thing too is that, when Paul had confronted Will would not allow Andrew to show them his eyes.
True.
Remember, he
Keep
kept
your eyes closed.
Keep your eyes
That's
closed.
right.
Keep your eyes closed.
See,
So
I
I
thought,
think,
wow.
I didn't
I
even
thought
think
that he
about
was doing
that.
that. Yeah, I thought he was doing that because he didn't want Paul. He didn't want the kid to see his dad putting another man at gunpoint. But really, it was because the black eyes are a symptom, and he wanted it,
Yup.
and he told him to cover his eyes. Wow. Okay. All right. I'll give the
right,
movie a point for that. I'll give him a point for that.
1 point. So
One
again,
point. Yeah, the first one.
we're gonna do one of those mysterious. Now it's daytime, and so it's daytime all of a sudden, and
Exactly. Pissed me off.
woof, just boom,
Yeah.
like flashcards or something. And so Paul basically has everybody at gunpoint, and he's taking them outside. So Paul has Will in the wheelbarrow, the same one that he had used for Bud, and he's kind of wheeling him down, and Kim is holding Andrew, and Travis is still upstairs. So it's just the adults with the 17-year-old upstairs. And then Will kind of, for whatever reason, jumps Paul and starts beating Paul with a rock. Boom, boom, boom. He's hitting him, boom, boom, boom. And
you know
you
what
think,
gets me here? Is that I'm waiting for Sarah to like shoot him, and Sarah's just standing there and letting Will beat the shit out of Paul.
right.
Paul gets Will gets like 18 good hits before
There's always that one person who doesn't react quick enough, and you're like, oh my god,
right?
what are you fucking doing? Do
Like,
something while you're watching it.
This is your one job.
Right.
This guy.
Yeah, what happened? What happened to family?
She must Paul must have pissed her off like 10 minutes before because she's just letting him get some punishment before
I think it's because Paul's not really the baby daddy. Things are, maybe she's maybe she's trying to settle the score and get back with the real man back in the city after the apocalypse.
Now it's all coming in. Now it's all coming in.
There's going to be a
sequel.
This could happen. This could happen. So
it comes during the day.
Will is crushing Paul, the history teacher, bum with a rock. Finally, Sarah kaboom, kills him. Right, Paul mysteriously recovers, and as Kim and Andrew are running away, Paul takes a shot. He kills Andrew while Kim's running. Yeah, boom! What a shot! What a marksman! Yeah. Not bad even for a history
after getting
teacher.
His eyes bludgeoned out. He's a pretty solid shot.
He's quite focused. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So he's quite focused. Well played, sir. So Kim is screaming, because Andrew's dead. Oh, why don't you kill me? And Paul takes her up on that, and Kim dies as well. So kaboom! She gets shot. Okay, so now Travis is crying, Sarah's crying. Paul's crying. They're all in a daze about the situation, okay? And we hear Sarah kind of calling to Travis upstairs. Travis, right? She's calling to him, and we see a shot of Travis, and he's running, and he's throwing up in the sink, and we realize Travis is sick. He's got whatever this infection is. He got got. He got got.
Mm-hmm. You got got?
He got got. Paul decides that he's going to go drink some of Uncle Bud's or Grandpa Bud's whiskey, so he's knocking back again. And again, all of a sudden, we're back to daylight again. It's like this is the shortest. Yes.
How do we know that Grandpa Bud didn't drink from that bottle right before he started getting sick?
Imagine that bottle of whiskey is what caused the whole apocalypse. Like
right?
There should have been a huge recall on that whiskey. Exactly. And it was super popular in the city, and that's what caused the whole thing.
There you go. That is a much better scenario here.
You guys know alcohol kills everything. That's the whole thing.
Yeah, but
that's why
not what this shit is.
It's mysterious. I'm telling you, it's mysterious. See, where you're going is this is the mysterious virus. That's the whole thing. It's mysterious.
Exactly.
So basically the next scene is Travis in bed, and his mom is sitting with him bedside, and he's definitely got the sores all on him, and he's not going to make it. And basically the last part with him is this dream sequence, and he's now walking back to the red door, and I'm just going to say Rosebud, Rosebud, Rosebud
Right.
a few times just to because I'm an asshole, whatever. So just because. And so he walks through the red door into the ether. And now the last scene is basically it's morning again, the fastest night ever. And it's just Paul and Sarah sitting at the table, and there's no Travis whatsoever. We hit end credits, and we're done with It Comes at Night.
I was
Wow.
like, thank God this is only an hour 25 minutes. This is, oh my God.
Yeah.
That was just like
Although,
my only blessing.
when I realized it was only an hour 25 was when he starts knocking on the door and Will puts him at gunpoint. It's like, oh, this is getting good. Wow, how much? What? There's 10 minutes left.
Yeah.
This is the climax. I got so mad. I was like, the whole movie built up to this. The only thing that we knew was going to happen.
Right.
I was so
Yet
disappointed.
everything is still unanswered for. Like, this is
Exactly.
such shit.
Right. Even the intro that you gave it said, "Oh, the real evil might come from within," and so I'm thinking like, okay, so they're gonna turn on each other at some point, great. But I didn't expect that to be the climax of the film. I thought that would be the jumping off point for where things get interesting. But really, that was it, and I was so ready to think this movie was good, and it just
okay. But now I'm gonna drop some science on you. Are you ready? Here's and
Doug,
you guys
wrong.
yeah.
You gotta hit us with some wisdom, is what you're supposed to say.
I'm gonna break it off right now. I'm gonna break it off. I'm gonna break it off. Okay, ready? I think this film is really about net neutrality. Yes, I do. And I think here's what it is. The academics want to have the internet, and the knuckle draggers like Will, they're trying to put us backwards into the 1940s. That's what this movie is about. What do you think, Matt, about my thought on this really being about net neutrality? Is it possible?
I think that deserves a whole episode of a podcast to elaborate. I will. Okay, is it possible? Probably not, but let's assume that it is, right?
Okay.
If it is, right, then we have, what do we have? Let's go through the net neutrality saga that our country's been through for the past couple years.
Okay. Did I lose you?
Hey.
Okay, hold on. I don't know. I'm here. Matt, did we lose you?
Oh no.
That's okay. Hang tight for 1 sec. He'll circle back in.
We'll play you back
in. Can you call? Do you want to try and call him?
I'm trying to see. The call.
Okay, hold on. Okay, weird.
Yeah,
all of a sudden it just went silent.
It might be. Oh wait, it dropped. Okay, so maybe his mic is messing up. Let me try calling him again.
Okay.
Let's see. Nope, he's gonna have to jump back into this call. So if he sees us still live, he can jump back in. But anyway, can I put my take on your?
Sure.
I feel like that's complete bullshit. But if we're gonna play along, I'm gonna say. The only way it can be compared to net neutrality is because soon all of our content and our movies that we watch are going to be just as slow as this fucking movie played out to be. That's the only comparison I'm going to make.
Okay.
That's the only comparison I'll give you, Doug.
Right. Okay, cool. So let's wait 1 second to see if Matt comes back. Because he wanted to make a pretty good point about the net neutrality, which was interesting. But either way,
I think he's trying to be polite.
Oh,
he's back.
You're back.
Hey,
yay!
Matt.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
And you guys hear me and personally.
Wait, it's a little bit hard to hear you.
I realized I was just dropped.
There you go.
It's hard to hear me.
No, now you're
yeah.
good.
Now I think now you're good. Go for it. So you were about to unwrap the net neutrality idea.
Break it down.
Paralleling this film? You're going to break it down. Break it down.
I know I left you on a cliffhanger there. I'm sorry. So, what I was gonna say was, you guys can hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, cool. What I was gonna say was, all right. So if we follow it, say a couple years ago, the whole idea of big corporations coming in and thinking, let's get rid of net neutrality, right? And let's make it so that people can, charge and charge you for providing service and internet and all that stuff, right? So what would we call that? Would we call that Will knocking through the door maybe, and the people and Joel and everyone, the standard internet user, like stumbling upon him? Okay. So now Will's like, no, we're okay. Like we're clean. We're good. I'm just trying to get water to my family, right? So that's sort of how net neutrality is and he starts to trade, he starts to barter, and that's how net neutrality is packaged and how it's sold, right? How they sell the idea, right? They say that, well, we'll trade our faster services for things that you can provide us, i.e., money in this case, right? And so the whole idea of money being traded for service, and that's sort of the idea that Will puts forward. So they decide pretty early, and let's bring them in. Let's see what we got. Let's get to know them a little bit, and and then now we get like Will starting to teach Travis a few things. And I guess maybe Travis is the most susceptible. If we view it from the eyes of Travis, we have his dad, who's stern, not always the best, not always the best internet service, but you know what? It's fair. He's fair. And then you have Will, who's like a little more of a loose, like, hey, let me show you how to chop some wood type, and he's got the hot wife and all that stuff, right? So then eventually, things start going south.
That's great. Things going south right on that note.
No, he's still there. Matt, we can't hear ya.
Did we lose you?
No.
Why do I keep doing this?
Oh, wait, no, we still hear you.
So sad.
No, we still hear you.
I am still here.
Yes.
Oh,
we hear
okay,
you
okay,
now.
good.
You're good. I'm so
Okay.
sad.
Yeah.
You're adorable.
I was like, well, like the first time I got cut off, but this time they had to have hung up. They must hate my net neutrality thing.
No,
which is even more idea.
That's why. Hey,
I'm
listen.
trying to help
Honestly,
Doug. It's not my idea.
we would have moved on by now had it been anybody else. We
Way past it.
Right.
Maybe we should. We should. Because you know what's funny actually? Our service is going out because we're exposing net neutrality as we speak.
Yes, I caught that. I caught that. I definitely caught that.
Yep.
So I think that one. I think that maybe we'll have to write a sub article and post it. You can just post the article and maybe you could do your own like live YouTube super chat or something, and we'll figure that out.
I will join.
So, okay, cool. So for you, Courtney, I'm gonna start wrapping things up here. Courtney, did you have a favorite character, or did you have a favorite like effect, jump sequence, anything like that in this story that you were like, wow, that really stood out?
My favorite character was the fucking dog, actually.
Stanley.
Yes, Stanley. Stanley held it down. Stanley had a purpose. Okay.
Stanley's the MVP for sure.
Everyone was fucking boring, and I wanted to fucking rip my head out. And like, I don't even know what the fuck that means. I'm just saying, it was so boring. I lost all of my consciousness, and now I can't fucking talk. It was awful. So Stanley held it down in the clutch. So we're good.
Okay. Matt, what about you? Did you have a favorite effect or a favorite character or anything that jumped out at you that you thought was notable?
One thing that I thought was cool was that the aspect ratio changed every time we went into a dream sequence. We went into a kind of like, you couldn't really tell because everything was dark, but the film actually became widescreen every time you went to a dream, and you don't realize that because it's all like dark and creepy and stuff. But that as far as like a character, honestly, I like that Paul was ready to kill anybody at any given time.
Right.
Paul was ride or die. Stanley's definitely the MVP. Shout out, rest in peace, Stanley. Shout out to Stanley. But I honestly think the movie was shot I think the way the movie was shot, the cinematography is honestly like the most interesting part of it, because what like the way that you follow a flashlight through the woods is something, the way they can build like in like suspense when he's driving with Will, and it's like one big tracking shot that, like, when it gets interrupted by the tire getting shot out, it snaps you out of it because the tracking shot was really entrancing. But otherwise, no, everyone in this movie sucked. What the hell is Sarah doing thinking this is a good idea to bring these people in? What the hell is Will doing? Your son's infected. Get out. Like, and like Kim, like with the oh, let me just lean back into this chair with this horny 17-year-old.
Right?
Like, what was her idea? What was her end game there? Everything. And then Andrew,
I don't
what
know.
a dick, right? What a dumbass. Did Paul not clearly explain to everyone with the 5-year-old in the room that door does not open? Like, I remember being 5, and I remember when a bearded like scary man tells me don't open a door, I ain't opening that door, you know?
Right.
And like, also, you're young enough to know that you're in the apocalypse. 5, first of all, like, whatever, this 5-year-old, I assume that he had a job at 5, because at 5 he should, and lost it, right? Because the apocalypse ended. And
there you go.
And I assume that he was worried doing construction with his dad, right? Has none of the skills that his dad has acquired. I saw Travis chopping wood. Did you see Andrew chop any wood? No, he wasn't even purifying the water. This kid was the worst thing that could have happened to this family.
There you go. I bet he's going to move to Portland and he's going to start a edible company in Portland. There you go. Andrew, you suck. Dude, you suck.
He
All right,
sucked.
that's pretty funny.
He got Travis infected.
No, that's funny. For me, I thought I'm going to give it up to the double dream sequence. I thought was kind of clever. Like, I really liked the dream sequences, and those were a lot of fun, and they kind of kept me going. And
sure.
I loved the double dream sequence part. That was fun.
Sequence, I love the way they were shot. I love the way they built suspense. I love the double dream was really cool. But my thing is, the whole time you're thinking that there's some underlying like context to these dreams that is telling us something about Travis's character besides the fact that he's a horny kid. And in the end, there's not.
Fucking nothing.
It meant nothing, right?
The cinematography was on point in this movie, but it was wasted on this fucking concept.
Maybe we're dumb. Maybe we're dumb, and this concept, and this is actually so high concept, and we're not getting it. But really, this seems like about a movie about a son and his like father, and like I heard that the director Paul Schultz like made this movie. And he was inspired by the death of his father, which I can see because it sort of like traverses some of the pivotal moments in a young man's like development, of a 17-year-old man's development, like realizing that, you know, like disagreeing with your father when the dad says don't go after the dog, or like being challenged by another role model like Will coming in and teaching him these physical skills, or a girl maybe like Kim like being sexually attracted to a girl can stop
creepy as hell and should go to jail. I got you.
Being attracted to a pedophile, you know, can totally like, these are things that start to break the bond between a kid and his parents, or a kid and his father in this case. Also the fact, like you said, Courtney, that's not his real dad. But in the context of the film, I get that that's what they were going for. It did not end up leading anywhere. He died, so it did not end up like influencing the plot at all. It was just it just seemed like this was something that was very personal to the director, and he probably should have kept it that way, as like to himself, and not published it.
Maybe it would have worked. Maybe it would have worked out if it was like a short film. You know, if they kept it to like 7 minutes.
Yes. You know what? Yes, because honestly, yeah, I could even see that. Honestly, yes, a short film actually, Doug, it would have been a great idea, because there's so much to this movie that is just a shot of people not doing anything. That could have been cut out, and the actual important parts would have been, you could put into 15 minutes, finding Will, bringing the family, them getting close, the montage of them getting close, then the dog getting lost, then like as you described it, like that could take 20 minutes, you know? And everything else was just filler that didn't lead anywhere. So I think a short film would have made this movie a much superior project.
There you go. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. All right, so Courtney, for you, why don't you tell us what's going on with you this week? Anything you want to hype, plug? What are you up to? How can people find you and shoot you an email and all that stuff? Tell us the deets.
Well, we do have some Savage Media Radio swag coming up this week. I was put on pressure by Troy to release the pictures of everything by Wednesday, so I'm going to try to keep to that promise, but we have some swag coming out for everybody, all our supporters. Definitely check out our Patreon, which we will be updating soon. I'm sorry we've been a little bit slow on it, but check it out. If you subscribe to our Patreon and you are a patron of it, you are eligible to get swag periodically, so definitely hit us up on Patreon. Other than that, I am busy. I have a crazy week. I'm meeting up with some friends tomorrow. Then I have to do a whole bunch of decorating for some events. So, I'm pretty packed, but I'm excited and I'm looking forward to the Wednesday show with everybody. But definitely hit us up at savageonair@gmail.com. Let us know if you have any movie ideas for this segment, as well as, again, we're looking for some guest hosts. So if you want to give a try out on air and have us test you out, if it's something you've ever wanted to do, here's your opportunity. So hit us up at savageonair@gmail.com. But that is pretty much it for me.
All right, very good. Matt from the Movie Mayhem podcast. What about you? How can people hear your podcast? How can they track you down? What are you working on? What's going on? Tell the Savage crew what you're up to and how they can find you out there in the interwebs.
All right, so Movie Mayhem podcast. It's me. It's my boy Brian. He's my better half. He's a lot smarter and a lot cooler, a lot funnier than I am. And what we do is we're kind of like you guys. We're just a couple of bros that put on a movie that we want to watch and we talk about it. We don't get too esoteric because we're not that bright, and our conversations usually end up all over the place. It's actually not too different from this. We just bring a different perspective. So we will review anything. If you tell us a movie, we'll bring you on. We'll review it. We don't always go through the whole thing chronologically. We a lot of times we're jumping there all over the places. We'll talk about we'll break things down. We'll make fun of things. We'll praise things if it's good. We talk about anything, a rom-com, an Oscar movie, a blockbuster, a shitty movie, a cult classic. We go through all of it. We sometimes we'll do things like one thing we're putting together that I'm really excited about is a this year in movies thing, where you give us a year, we'll talk about all the movies about it. We'll say, yo, did this movie year suck for movies? This year awesome. We're into things like Ghostbusters, Terminator, Die Hard. These are Jurassic Park. These are our bread and butter. These are the movies that we were grown up with, and we kind of watch movies from the eyes of two people that we like movies, but we don't know too much about them. If you want an idea of what we're like, you can catch us on Spotify. We're on iTunes. We're on Podbean. We're on SoundCloud. We're on pretty much any media that you can get a podcast on. Hit us up on Twitter at Movie Mayhem Pod. You find out where all of our new episodes are coming out. We have links to all of our shows. Movie Mayhem Podcast on Instagram. Brian is a savant. He is a Renaissance man with the Photoshop abilities that he is able to do with the posters of the movies that we put together. If you want to be dazzled by just straight art, follow us on Instagram. You will see the kind of things that this man can do. You can hit us up if you want to email us. Because we say a lot of things that will make you laugh, but we say a lot of things that might piss you off. And if you want to yell at us, or if you want to tell us, hey, we missed something, we're completely wrong, moviemayhempodcast@gmail.com. Our latest episode was on Heat. Michael Mann's Heat, Al Pacino, Robert De Niro. Fantastic film. We talked about that. The movie before was Jurassic Park. One of our personal favorites, the OG Jurassic Park, not Jurassic World or whatever. The OG Jurassic Park. We give that movie its justice. And then the movie before, actually, I think we did was pretty shitty. So that we actually go in on that one pretty well. We don't hold back. So anyway, hit us up. Most of our episodes are about an hour long, and we break it down however we can. And our whole thing is if nothing else, follow us on Twitter, because we will put up polls. to decide our next movie option, and we're a podcast of the people. We like people to decide what we do. So we do whatever you do. Don't choose Maximum Overdrive. Brian's been putting it in the polls forever because he wants to review it, and I don't want to. So don't vote for Maximum Overdrive. But hit us up on Twitter. Vote for us. Vote for our polls. I mean, and we will review whatever movie you choose. So that's our plug. That's our spiel. That's how we do things. Thank you so much for having me on. I had a blast. It made up for me having to watch this movie. Yeah.
Okay. You have
Matt.
like the most subtle, relaxing voice I've ever heard. I just want to put that out there. Your voice is
Are you trying to
so
tell me I put you to
relaxing.
sleep?
I usually talk more, but I was just like so entranced by like the flow of your voice and the I don't know. You got something there. You got
you're your own Barry White.
Pretty much.
You're your own Barry White. You're your own
but
Barry
it's very
White.
pleasant though. So I wanted to
You know what? I appreciate that so much. I thought Brian has been carrying me for years, but I guess I do have some value.
You can hold
good.
your own just fine.
Yep.
You can hold your own. No disrespect to Brian. We love Brian, but you can hold your own now just fine. It's great. All right, so Matt, let me tell you what we do now. Now's the time that we introduce the next movie that we're going to be talking about next week. Are you ready for it?
Oh my God.
Let's do it.
Here comes the movie voice. A National Geographic film crew is taken hostage by an insane hunter who takes them on his quest to capture the largest and deadliest snakes. Jennifer Lopez and Ice Cube starring Anaconda.
Yeah.
No, I don't want to watch Anaconda.
Yes, come on.
I came in on the wrong episode.
So get ready, ladies and germs out there in podcast land. We're going to watch the 1997 classic, all 89 minutes.
Absolute classic.
We're not going to watch 86. We're not going to watch 86 minutes. We're watching 89 minutes. I love Ice Cube. He's funny. I can't wait to see this one. I saw it a million years ago, and I'm hyped. Listen to how happy I am. I'm hyped already. All right, I'm going to start winding this show down. Thanks, Courtney, for having me out. Savage Media Radio. I love doing it. If you want to track down the Worst of the Worst podcast WOTW on Instagram, podcast WOTW on the Twitter. If you want to do a review of the show, go on to iTunes, track us down, say, hey, Doug, I love the show. Give us 5 stars, blah, 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 blah. If you want to catch us on traditional email, podcast WOTW at Gmail or savageonair at gmail.com. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen out there in podcast land. Episode number 7 is coming to a close. Courtney, play that music.
Bye, guys.